or at the midpoint of a WNBA season that's been like no other. Record-setting numbers on the court, in the stands, and on television.
Over 500,000 more views than every other game combined. You can't tell me there are Connecticut Sun fans.
You know what's crazy? The Women's March Madness Final just crushed the men's game in viewership. We're talking 18.9 million people tuning in to watch the women, while only 14.8 million watch the men.
It is mental. Like, they are insane viewership numbers.
That's insane. And you know who's behind this shakeup? Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. These two are changing the game, and men's basketball is feeling the heat. Now, you might be thinking, basketball's all about what happens on the court. But Caitlin Clark, she's proving that what comes out of your mouth can be just as powerful as what you do with the ball. This isn't your average trash talk. It's a whole new level of psychological warfare that's got everyone from coaches to top recruits taking notice. What's her secret sauce? It's not just what she says, but how she says it. Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's a force of nature on the court. Her playing style? Explosive. Her attitude? Fearless. But it's her mouth that's really turning heads. Las Vegas Aces head coach Becky Hammon put it best when she said, "Nobody talks more crap than Caitlin too." That's right, Clark's not just sinking baskets. She's dropping verbal bombs that leave her opponents shook. But here's the thing. Clark's trash talk isn't just about getting under her opponent's skin. It's a strategy, a way to fire up her teammates and assert dominance on the court. Ace Bailey, a top recruit, spilled the tea on Clark's unique approach. He said, "She talking to him in negative ways, but it's positive toward her teammates. It's just the way she does that." It's like Clark's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. And let me tell you, people are tuning in to watch this verbal virtuoso work her magic. During her first playoff game, Clark pulled in an average of 1.84 million viewers. That's right, 1.84 million.
Over 500,000 more views than every other game combined. You can't tell me there are Connecticut Sun fans.
Caitlin and Angel Reese, coming off of last year's national championship, was the most viewed ever. And now this year, we blew those records away, and we're so excited to have Caitlin.
And get this, she was going head-to-head with NFL games. That's the kind of star power that makes networks drool and advertisers open their wallets. But Clark's impact goes beyond just viewership numbers. She's changing the game from the inside out. Bailey also said, "She ain't worried about anybody else. She knows what she's capable of and just keeps getting better." That confidence, that swagger, it's infectious. It's inspiring a whole new generation of players, both male and female, to step up their game and their talk. You know what's wild? Clark's trash talk is just the tip of the iceberg. There's another force of nature on the court, and when these two collide, it's like nothing men's basketball has ever seen. I'm talking about Angel Reese, and her rivalry with Clark is setting the basketball world on fire. This Clark-Reese showdown isn't just another sports rivalry. It's a phenomenon that's blowing up social media.
Comments about the Angel Reese-Caitlin Clark race, and I got to tell you, makes some very smart comments.
At the end of the game, what happened? There's a lot blown up on Twitter about Angel Reese following you around, pointing to her ring finger and taunting you.
Dominating headlines and changing the game in ways we've never seen before. These two aren't just playing basketball, they're sparking conversations about everything from sportsmanship to social issues. It's like they've taken women's basketball and turned it into must-see TV. And get this, it's not just die-hard women's basketball fans who are tuning in. This rivalry is pulling in people who've never watched a women's game in their life. It's like Clark and Reese have some kind of magnetic pull that's impossible to resist. People are choosing to watch their games over men's basketball, NFL games, you name it. That's the kind of star power that's making networks and advertisers sit up and take notice. But here's where it gets really interesting. You know who else is watching? Top men's recruits. Yeah, you heard that right. Guys like Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, who are supposed to be the future of men's basketball, are glued to their screens watching Clark and Reese battle it out.
Or at the midpoint of a WNBA season that's been like no other. Record-setting numbers on the court, in the stands, and on television.
The rematch comes on the heels of the Reese-Clark rematch last Sunday, which was the most watched WNBA game in 23 years.
Harper even said, "I just think we're all the same, and to categorize us as different, because we're all the same people at the end of the day." That's huge. It's like the lines between men's and women's basketball are starting to blur. And it's not just about watching. These top recruits are taking notes, learning from Clark and Reese's game. Bailey started following women's basketball specifically because of these two. He's impressed by Clark's leadership and how she handles trash talk. It's like these women are becoming role models for the next generation of male players. Who would have thought? This rivalry isn't just entertaining, it's inspiring.
That Caitlin Clark is the golden goose. She's the cash cow. And wherever she goes, ratings follow. The WNBA draft.
Seem like it's something, but I love Caitlin and I love her game and I admire everything that she's done.
It's showing a whole new generation of players, both male and female, what's possible on the court. Clark and Reese are proving that women's basketball can be just as exciting, just as competitive, and just as influential as men's basketball. They're changing perceptions, breaking down barriers, and setting a new standard for what it means to be a basketball star. Now, here's where things get really wild. Remember when men's basketball was the undisputed king of the court? Well, Clark and Reese are flipping that script. They're not just changing women's basketball, they're forcing men's basketball to evolve. How? You're about to find out. The impact of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is shaking up men's basketball in ways you wouldn't believe. These women aren't just dominating their own game, they're influencing the future of men's basketball too. It's like they've taken a wrecking ball to the old way of doing things, and everyone's scrambling to keep up. First off, let's talk about stability. In women's basketball, stars like Clark and Reese often stick around for their full college careers. But in men's basketball, it's all about that one-and-done culture. Players show up for a hot minute, then they're off to the NBA. This constant turnover is messing with fan engagement and team dynamics. Fans barely have time to learn a player's name before they're gone. But here's the kicker. Top male recruits are now looking up to female players as role models. Can you believe it? Guys like Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, who are supposed to be the future of men's basketball, are glued to their screens watching Clark and Reese battle it out. They're not just watching for fun, they're taking notes, learning from these women's game. And it's not just the players who are taking notice. Even the bigwigs at ESPN are saying, men's basketball could learn a thing or two from the women's game.
You got to remember, Angel Reese, her game, solid, professional, steady. She's going to be in the league for a long time.
Holly Rowe from ESPN dropped a bomb when she suggested that men's basketball could boost viewership by switching to a four-quarter format like women's basketball. She says the women's game flows better and is more exciting. Imagine that, men's basketball taking cues from the women's game to improve. This shift is huge. It's like the entire basketball world is being turned upside down. For years, people thought men's basketball was the gold standard, the one to beat. But now, Clark and Reese are showing that women's basketball can be just as exciting, just as competitive, and maybe even more influential. Think about it. When was the last time you heard about men's basketball players inspiring change in the women's game? But here we are, with women's basketball potentially shaping the future of the sport as a whole. It's not just about who can score the most points anymore. It's about who can capture the audience's attention, who can inspire the next generation of players, and who can push the sport forward.